Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for July 30, 2022, the Bend Every Rule edition. This will be the final Daily Compliance News for the month of July, as tomorrow is Sunday and we'll have the Sunday book review. So check out the Sunday book review on the Compliance Podcast Network. We begin with our lead story from the New York Times, which details the reasons why the city of Rotterdam was not willing to dismantle a non-used bridge so that Jeff Bezos could get his $500 million yacht out to the sea. It basically came down to, as one former city council member said, there's a principle at stake. And what can you buy if you have unlimited cash? Can you bend every rule? Can you take apart monuments? Well, that's how a big sector of the city saw it, and it was an opportunity to see Dutch values and American values clash head on, where in America, if you have money, you can basically do anything you want. And in the Netherlands, with its preference for modesty over extravagance, community over individual, it seemed that someone was trying to get something that no one else could have. So, see what happens. Next up, in an interesting letter to the Financial Times, Frank Vogel, chairman of the Partnership for Transparency Fund and co-founder Transparency International, opined in a letter about foreign sovereign debt that you have to consider corruption in ongoing negotiations with countries who have massive foreign debt, and that clearly there's no international system in monitoring in place to know how governments use those cash inflows, or at least none functioning. But most of the IMF bailouts, he believes, ignore corruption, and that needs to be factored in to these bailouts going forward. From Reuters, Gary Gensler says he is not sending SEC inspectors, PCAOB accounting inspectors to China unless Washington and Beijing can reach a deal on complete audit access. He wants to bring specificity and accountability in the audits of foreign companies who are listed on the New York Stock Exchange or on Wall Street. The PCAOB will not be willing to do so unless there's an agreement in place. He probably ought to write in some protections to make sure they're not arrested and thrown in jail as well. And finally, from the Wall Street Journal, Risk and Compliance Journal, Mingy Sun reporting that there's now a dispute between Carson Black and Kevin Barnes over authorship of a Muddy Waters report, which led to a $14 million whistleblower award by the SEC. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.